Good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Hopefully in the bridge, is that on? Can you guys hear us okay as well? Yeah? I don't think anyone's on. Did we start the bridge? All right. All right. Well, we'll get started. Welcome. This is our very first presentation, really, for research technologies. Supercomputing is for everyone. And when I say our very first, I mean our really very first. I'm the IUAnyWare team manager. My name is Stephanie Cox, and I have the IUAnyWare team here with me today, front and center. You guys, Steve Shunk, if you want to, Steve, yep. Sean Mahoney, and Ellen Pruitt. Yeah, these guys are great. We also, we've had some new changes to research technologies, IUAnyWare. Really, the truth is that in the fall of 2016, IUAnyWare, which has been around the university for several years now, moved under the research technologies umbrella. And I report to Matt Link, who is not here today, but is our acting AVP for research technologies. We are doing a partnership, kind of a slew of projects to make supercomputing more accessible for everyone by working with Robert Henschel. Robert is over here. He is the Director of Science Community Tools, and he lent us his very valuable engineer, Abhinav Thortak. Abhinav will say hi. These guys have been great to work with. We've been trying to come up with new ideas and new ways to make the supercomputing or options that we have under the supercomputing umbrella more accessible with IUAnyWare. That's really what IUAnyWare does. It makes applications, groups of applications and images and desktops more accessible. So we're going to do a demo today on some of the new stuff that we've done with IUAnyWare. We're going to do our very best to show you guys some Linux stuff, and I'm a Windows girl, so it is a stretch for me. I have our distinguished guest here. This is Kyle Kilgore from Citrix Systems, and he's going to do some other demos out of the Citrix cloud, but we're going to try to show you, too, what we also have on-prem here within IUAnyWare. And it's real informal, so, feel free to ask questions, and we'll do our best to answer them as we move right along. I'm going to move my slide along. So the first thing I want to know is, and you all will not hurt my feelings, how many in this room have ever even used IUAnyWare? A few. I went to my management meeting earlier with my staff, I mean with Matt and our other managers, and you guys hardly no one had ever used it, not even my own boss, or at least it had been a long time. So it was refreshing to know that we have some basics to cover here, and I wanted to target this presentation for our audience. So if you haven't used it, no shame. You can open up a browser from your computing device and use this URL. It's our storefront URL. It will detect whether or not you have a Citrix client loaded locally on your computer, and you don't have to have one. You can use what we call the light version, and you'll still be able to run IUAnyWare apps. So if you want to try this, you can. And you will eventually, you'll log in with your ADS credentials on our NetScaler page, and you'll land today on this green-looking page with all the apps and the desktops. But I'm up here today to tell you, not for long, on May 12th, yes, like a week from Friday, we're going to launch our new storefront, and it's going to look a lot like this. Here's what you'll see when you come in next week. We're really, really, really close getting there to make all of this happen. Some people tell me it's more in line with what we see when you log in to one.iu.edu. Just our apps are kind of out front there. And you can see we have desktops, apps, and favorites. I just happened to land on the apps page. So I'm going to try with Kyle's laptop that I've never used before. All right. So log in. Okay. I'm already logged in. So Kyle helped, he cheated a little bit for me, but this is our true, you can see it says new IUAnyWare.iu.edu. That is a new testing URL that we have up just for testing purposes right now. But like I said, a week from Friday, all of this you'll look exactly like it. We have hundreds of applications in IUAnyWare. I'm just going to scroll down so you can see some of them. We have them grouped. I don't know that I like the groupings, but we do have them grouped. It might be easier just to come up here and to begin to type the name of an app. Let's pretend I want to fix my photo with Photoshop. I can just start typing Photoshop. There it is. I click on it.
One of the things you can do is, this is all based off of Active Directory rights. So you may not necessarily see the entire list of all 375 apps. Depending on what you're supposed to have access to, you may only see 4 or 5 or whatever. But you can also favorite them, and then the favorites tab up in the top, then that is your list of applications that wherever you go, whatever device you walk up to log in, you'll see that list of favorites.
Okay. All right. Show them the details. Yep. Yep. If you do click our details tab, we can put add to favorites, and if I add that to my favorites and I hop back over here, now it's on my favorites tab. We'll expect folks, as you start using more and more IUAnyWare apps, that you'll want to move those over there. And believe it or not, I think it did launch. I just have to find my Photoshop, and this isn't my computer, so I'm not really used to where it's at.
Yeah, I think it's still waiting to launch.
All right, well, moving on. That took a while. That should not have been. If I move over to the next tab, we have all of the desktops that we offer in IUAnyWare. This one, the first one that you see, everyone will see these, by the way. Kyle said you might only have 3 or 4. When you all log in, I guarantee you, your page will be filled. We actually publish pretty much everything, hundreds and hundreds of applications to all faculty, staff, and students. And that's because we at the university here have a site license to do that. Now, there are some specialty apps, like some of the things that we do if you're a dental student or a special grad program, and those are certainly tailored to a particular class, or if someone has purchased so many licenses for that app, you would not see those there. But if you can see it, genuinely, if we've done our jobs right, you're supposed to, so no worry there. The desktops are a different thing, though. We actually create the desktops today in 2 ways. We have a desktop that everyone can see. You all will see it when you log into IUAnyWare. You're going to actually see the IUB desktop for IU Bloomington, and you'll see IUPUI and probably a regional. You can launch whatever one you want. The reason that they're named for the respective locations is because of printing. We wanted the folks, the students that were in Bloomington, if they printed, to make sure that they were going to go to a release queue on the Bloomington campus, and the same for IUPUI. But if you don't want to use university printing, you don't have to. You can already have your default printer selected on your computer device, and when you log into IUAnyWare, it's going to see that printer. It can be your printer at home. I print all the time from IUAnyWare apps, and it works just fine. So that's something to consider there. So I got ready to talk about the AT desktop. This is one that we built for accessibility. Oops. I'm having problems with his clicker. There, we'll just do it that way. Not my laptop. This desktop is going to load. It's one that the team and I crafted about a year ago with the accessibility team, and it's to use computing for those actually that are sight impaired, if you can imagine that. We have several of the applications that the university licenses as a whole to help those with sight impairments. Read Write Gold and Kurzweil 3000, things like that. If you also notice, I was talking, but over in the bottom right-hand corner, you probably saw the drive mappings or some things spinning around right there. Those are our drive mappings. to save all of your information while you're working within any application within IUAnyWare. And you set that up through cloud storage. I don't know, is anyone familiar? You guys, have you heard of cloud storage before at iu.edu? It's a site you go to. Yeah? No? Some of you? All right, well, and we're going to have to definitely spend another presentation just on how we wanted to use those with IUAnyWare. But essentially, cloudstorage.iu.edu is where you're going to want to go to set up it's basically to map the drives that you want to use when you use IUAnyWare. And when I say map your drives, you guys, it can be anything. It's very cool. For example, I'll just open this up. It's kind of funny because it's so little. Yeah. For example, I have a box drive, as you can see here. I have my Dropbox, and then I have other shares that are accessible only to me, right? And so when Stephanie Cox, when I log in, it follows me regardless of which application that I'm in. So it's kind of like just having a whole lot of different, box addresses that follow you with IUAnyWare. So we encourage everyone to use those two together. In addition to custom desktops like that, we've been working really hard. The team has. Sean did it this morning to get our Windows 10 apps and Windows 10 going. I'm going to open it. I'm going to hope it works really well. This is what actually the desktop in the fall when the students come back, and most of all, everyone comes back on campus again. If you were to log on to the IUB desktop icon within IUAnyWare, the one I was just telling you all about, kind of the main thing, it's going to look like this. It's going to come up like a Windows 10 computer. It's going to have all of our basic applications that we are licensed to provide to you with a valid Active Directory ADS ID. So you're going to have Office 2016. You're going to have access to the Adobe apps. We have a lot of statistical applications that you guys are probably already familiar with, and those things will be bundled inside of this desktop. All right, and last but not least, something really cool that Robert Henschel thought of himself, thought we should be able to do, and we somehow did it. All right, there. This is our Linux desktop. We actually have this running. You can see it, right? I'm going to scoot over a little bit. Whoops. Scoot over a little bit. But we actually have this running inside of IUAnyWare today. We don't really have anything on it yet, but okay. We don't have anything really. I was trying to show them that we had, that it was showing in IUAnyWare, but I guess they get the idea. It's a basic Linux desktop right now, so we don't really have any other apps in it yet, other than what comes with Linux. But we're working on it. We think we're going to do some really very cool things to come, and making all of the applications and everything just more accessible for everyone. We hope it excites people. So I'm going to stop my demo. Unless you all have some other questions, we can certainly switch back over to the end. And Kyle's going to kind of show us some of the benefits of what we actually can achieve with all of this technology, kind of the bells and whistles side to it. All right. I'll just leave it like that. You want this?
So I've got a couple of slides I'm going to cover. Can you guys all hear me okay back there? All right. So before I get started, when I had a lot less gray hair, Stephanie and I actually worked together at a company called Sallie Mae, and she brought me in and showed me how to do Citrix. And now I work for Citrix, and we're back working together as a vendor and a customer. So I think it's kind of fun. But what I'm here to talk about today is Linux virtual desktops and apps. And Stephanie showed you what that desktop looked like. I want to talk a little bit about what it looks like from the Citrix side, and then I can also show you a whiz-bang desktop and some published applications that are literally just Linux applications published from a Windows device or whatever device you want to use. Okay? So if there's questions, raise your hand, holler, whatever. So at Citrix, these are kind of the four big pillars of why we've looked at doing Linux desktops. Probably, obviously, the right-hand side from the developer standpoint lends well at IU and most of my EDU customers. But really, it's around giving another option. So not everybody wants to see a Windows desktop. If you've got statistical applications or you're doing some kind of heavy lifting, even in the supercomputing environment, and you just need a terminal, sometimes Linux makes sense. And one of the biggest areas that has really pushed us for it was oil and gas. Down in Houston, we have a lot of large, the folks you buy oil and gas off of are the ones driving the use of Linux. And then, one of the kind of the other use cases is on the far left there, secure browser. It's just running Firefox or Chrome outside, inside a Linux desktop, but publishing it as an application for your end user. So instead of having the cost of a Windows user cal and the desktop, the Windows OS, we have the ability to publish those browsers and give the users that same look and feel, but do it out of a Linux container instead of a Windows device. Does that make sense for everybody?
I think that's a huge thing for us, because one of the hardest thing of we as a Citrix engineer that you have to publish are the browsers, and we have to publish, all flavors of them, right? Some people need IE6 because that's the only, I'm sure everyone does, right? There are some older websites that need certain things, but keeping up with the security for it has always been, it's a nightmare really for our team. So knowing now that we can eliminate a lot of those risks with a Linux browser publish is really, really, really cool. I was excited to see that.
Yeah, over half of the Citrix applications deployed globally really are a browser, because you've got Silverlight, Java, Flash, and everything else, and you want to have all of those dependencies taken care of. So it's a good use case for us. So there's really a couple of ways you can deploy this Linux desktop. On the left-hand side is what we call a VDI or virtual desktop. And it really is about matching a user to a desktop. So this is my Linux, CentOS or Red Hat or SUSE or whatever you have. It's my desktop. I log into it every morning and I can make changes to it. And then there may be use cases where that makes sense. It might be for a lab that I'm doing that really not much shared with that. In the middle is what we call hosted shared desktop, and that really is, I'm going to have a virtual machine that allows me to just okay, I'll stay. You know what? I'll just stay here. Okay. So in the middle there, you have the hosted shared desktop, and the real idea for that is, I'm going to have a virtual machine. On that virtual machine, I can get better user density than if I had everybody with their own machine. So same physical device, I can double or sometimes triple the density of those users just by sharing that underlying OS and allowing them to consume that one application, that one terminal, and not have the underlying burden of that entire operating system for each one of those users duplicated. And then on the right-hand side here, application delivery, that's really what it is. I have the ability on a Windows machine or a Chrome box or a Chromebook to publish those applications out, and it is a seamless application that runs on that device. So instead of showing the user the entire desktop window, I only show them the Firefox browser or the terminal emulator or whatever I'm giving them as an application. So the list that Stephanie showed you of those applications, it could have been a Linux application that you clicked on and it fired up on your Windows device or your Mac. Did that make sense to everybody? Okay. So this is kind of what it looks like to the IUAnyWare team. Those Linux the VDA is the agent that runs on top of that OS that gives you the ability to log into it. It's just another workload in the IUAnyWare environment. So at the end of the day for them, they treat that Linux OS just like they would a Windows 10 or Windows 12 or a Server 2012 device or Server 2016. And to the end users, they don't even necessarily, the window may look a little different, but to them, a Chrome browser or a Firefox browser on Linux should look pretty close to what it looks like on a Windows device. And then for us, Stephanie touched on it, the super cool C icon over the top, that's the Citrix Receiver icon, and that's what you deploy on any of those flavors you see below, whether it's I'm just using a tabbed browser and I'm launching the application inside the browser window, I have it on an iOS device or an Android. The idea really is, as long as I have access to Stephanie's environment, then I can log in and do my work from anywhere on any device. Here are the different flavors that we support today, and we've been doing this for about a year and a half, going on 2 years, and we started off with SUSE and Red Hat, and we've added Ubuntu and CentOS as we've gone along, and then really the iterations between all our releases have just been adding features and functionality in for the Linux environments. So on top of just being able to deploy it and have the users access from anywhere, we give a wide range of hypervisor support. So our own hypervisors in server, VMware, Microsoft's Hyper-V. The other place that you can deploy these desktops is in AWS or in Azure. So this doesn't have to be consumed off of IU resources inside of the data centers here or downtown at IUPUI. You could run these workloads and burst out into Azure to meet the growth or the needs that you have inside of IU. And the other thing that's important is you try to reach out and broaden the scope of how or who you're delivering to. It's not just English. We can give non-English keyboards and present into a number of languages to help make sure that you're getting the end users get what they need to be successful. When I talked about those published applications, here's kind of what those seamless applications look like. So we're on a Mac OS here, this screenshot, and here's my Firefox browser, and here's my terminal running like you would expect a native Mac application to run. So nothing, I don't think it's fancy, but some people think it's cool that I've got this Linux device or Linux application running on a different operating system. We can do multi-monitor support. So if you need more than one monitor, we can almost give you as many monitors as you want to have all your applications spread out. I've only got 2 monitors, so I can't be cool as this person. And then another important thing, and the Stephanie's team has this available to them today, we have the ability to back these desktops and workloads with GPUs. So if you have workloads that are either graphic intensive or compute intensive, we can put an NVIDIA grid card in a server in the data center and specifically assign those GPUs to those desktops or those multi-user environments to give them a little more horsepower. On the Windows side, we talk quite a bit about, as the newer operating systems come about, they rely more and more on GPU to give that native look and feel when you're doing it virtually. And even just running Office, you can toggle on and off a switch and watch the GPU consumption go up and down as you toggle off and on. So, you think about browsers and multimedia, everything is kind of going this direction where at some point you will see a GPU in most of the servers and the Citrix environments backed by those GPUs. So now it's time for my demo. Any questions while I'm switching over? Start here in the front. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll have to check on KVM. I don't know off the top of my head. I know we've talked about it. We've tried to kind of start off with, the 2 or 3 kind of heavy hitters, and then we branch out. I'm not sure where we're at with KVM, but good question. I'll follow back up with Stephanie and have her route the response to you. Yes, sir. Correct. Yep. Yeah, so yeah, good point. Yeah. The hypervisors are required. You can literally just have a traditional server. Yep, exactly right. So my demo should look fairly similar to Stephanie's. I didn't pick the right color on the header here, but I tried to get close. This is a demo environment. This is actually running in Dallas, Texas. So this is a demo that we run out of Dallas. I'm here, I'm not going to walk you through the same paces. I've got a CentOS Linux desktop. The other thing that I can do is, this will look slightly different than what you saw for Stephanie's, but here is my Firefox web browser, and I'll bring it up as well. So here's this desktop. The cool thing you can do is you can actually embed the Citrix Receiver client that we talked about inside of this desktop. So if I want to, I have the ability to run kind of, non-traditional Linux applications inside of this. So just like we talked about running Linux on top of Windows, I actually have the ability to run Windows on top of Linux. So if you have some applications that, you have in your daily arsenal that you use, maybe, for whatever reason, I need to run a pivot table inside of Excel, then I can do that and stay inside of my Linux desktop without having to break out to do something else. So here's my Excel spreadsheet running inside of my CentOS desktop. And then the other thing that I've got back here behind it is somewhere here is my browser. Well, that's firing up. Do you have any questions? So this actually is, the desktop is a VDI, and the application launch here is the shared environment. Yep. So when you're thinking about doing those two, like I talked about, it really is about what's the best bang for the buck for that use case. So I have customers that dedicate those VDIs to a subset. The best thing you can do is give them that shared hosted environment, give it the look and feel of a VDI, but you're really sharing those resources behind the scenes. So this is IU1 running in there, or 1IU. Stephanie and the team showed me this the other day. If you're ever having a bad day and you just need to take a break and look at something ridiculous, turn on the bus thing and just watch the bus go through the streets. And which I'm fascinated by this. It makes me laugh to watch this. So again, if you ever had a bad day, fire this up and watch the bus go through its route. Yes, sir. Yeah, so I think this one, it should have popped up with a seamless window and not had the blue background. I cheated because I had the desktop running for some reason. It actually showed it in a window instead of just a seamless app, but that's how it should have fired up. Yeah, you wouldn't see anything. All you would see is the native window. Yep. Yes, sir.
Some things work on it, but not everything.
Yep. So, one of the things you can do to come. Yep.
We want to restrict the rest of the
Yep. Yeah, typically you're trying to, if you can, give the applications to the masses and then narrow that down to a specific use case and say, I understand you're a trusted person or you're smart enough to know this is a Linux, Firefox and this is a Windows Firefox and give you the option to run either or. Yep. And then the other way you can do that is, you've got these, you can create these categories and then that way I know, when I go into the Linux apps container, I'm in the Linux apps container and I'm launching Linux. Yep. 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 So short of the aha of seeing a Linux virtual desktop running on a Windows device, I wasn't going to run you through any kind of major demo. It was more just showing the options and giving you the idea that you don't have to run on a physical machine. You can integrate it inside of IUAnyWare and potentially meet a larger number of use cases throughout the university that you're not doing today because you're either running on traditional machines or you've got a different way of deploying it. This gives you kind of a one-stop shop, a front door, so to speak, to IU that allows you to access a number of applications on a number of different platforms. So Steph, I'm going to hand it back over to you and we can wrap this up. There's no additional questions.
I think one of the, step over this one. As Kyle was, I was sitting here thinking about our use cases and some of the issues that we see all the time and that we know our users have. Maybe they just got so frustrated they kind of quit telling us about it, but I think that happens a whole lot in our environment. But since we're kind of an we publish the statistical applications in IUAnyWare, the Stata, the SPSS, our Studio, these things. But we have a limited capacity, right? Because we are tied to the II. We have usually, what do we have? What is it, 4 gig? How much RAM do we have on our typical? We have 8 gig, right? RAM. So here they come along, with a file that's that same size. It's not going to load. And I think that they were getting really frustrated. Maybe they quit asking or saying things. We eventually find them, and those are perfect candidates for the Karst desktop. So we have, especially since IUAnyWare has come over to research technology, starting working much closer to kind of maneuver people to the right platform. But I think, if we publish things the right way, giving everyone the same access to get there, I think we're going to get back some users who had been really frustrated with us. right? We might even say, like you said, under the Linux window, it's okay, you can finally load your file here. Because I suspect they've probably given up on us. So those are the kind of things that I want you all, to keep your ears open for. Think about the people that you work with and, try to help us just make everything more accessible, make it a better environment for all of us. So that's kind of all we had. We have another question? Yeah. That's awesome.
Are you guys considering
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, I almost wanted to demo it, but got scared. Okay. Yeah, yeah. We have the ability to turn on Duo behind the NetScaler. And we talked before about, you've heard my problem with CAS. We also tried, we worked really hard with Kyle last year to do our CAS integration with the NetScaler, and we ran into our limitations with the pass-through. It needs to pass through ultimately to we call them the data collectors. It's the infrastructure of our Citrix environment. They kind of act like domain controllers on the Windows side. You guys, it couldn't pass through the passphrase. We got the ID through there. That passphrase was not going to come through. And I thought they should just enter it twice, but I was told, my boss said, no, take that down. So that was kind of the end of it. And we've kind of been waiting, to see how to get around that. Then it seemed like more momentum happened here at the university with everyone moving more towards Duo. So we went back to Citrix and we're like, okay, this is even a little bit easier. We can turn on the Duo right behind the NetScaler. But again, I got kind of stopped because we're out here for the students as well. This is like a year ago. We're moving more closely with everything being Duo, but our students are not used to it. And believe it or not, IUAnyWare, we have, even though we have almost, well, we do. We have 66,000 users as of today from the start of the fall semester, and 93% of those are the undergraduate student population, right? So I just couldn't do a lot with turning it on for everyone yet.
One of the things we can do on the NetScaler out front is we have what's called N factor, and it really is just, I'm going to determine, based on what I know about you, how many factors of authentication I should give you. So I'm going to enter in my, IUID. And if I'm an undergrad, I'm only going to present you with a password box to log in with. If it's Steve, I know Steve is not trustworthy because he's an admin, so I'm going to give him 4 factors of authentication. Right? So, you can get pretty granular on, who the user is, and how many factors of authentication you should give them. So that's something you can definitely do. It's just not something we've turned on here yet.
That's true. Yep. Yeah. Yes. We are. It's a project in the works. It happened really even before them. It happened with our SCCM admins. They really wanted to be able to make sure they didn't want it out there in IUAnyWare, so we pulled it. That was going to happen again with all of us who are fans of the FAT client for vSphere on OIM. So we are working it so that we can just turn on, like Kyle was saying. When we probably will have to turn it on for See, it's kind of funny, but I'm thinking we're going to have to turn on the dual authentication still at the scalar level when it sees that you are a user of the vSphere FAT client. So now anytime you use IUAnyWare or the we don't even know what you're going to get to yet, but you would be prompted then for the second level of authentication, and a student who doesn't use it would not. Yeah. That's correct, yeah.
Yep. The other thing we can do with the NetScaler is we can determine where you're coming from. And, I'll give you so if I'm down the street at Starbucks, I don't see that application. If I drive in here and plug in right here, I will see it. So we have the ability to do that as well on the NetScaler and kind of narrow down. And the use case really is doctors and nurses, if you think about it. I want you to see your EHR when you're inside the four walls, but when you're at Starbucks, I don't want you copy and pasting, HIPAA data and giving it to the baristas, right? So, that's kind of the use case that makes more sense. There you go. But yeah, we can hone in and kind of, tighten who gets it or when they see it, depending on where they're at.
Know who they are.
You guys are too.
Yeah. We have our work cut out for us there, and it involves, as you can imagine, other teams, not just ours. But we've been working at it. We did a demo. It's been about only like 2 weeks ago. Kyle was just here. I know a lot of you might not have been privy to it, but we talked. It's something that I put together really regarding the NetScaler. The NetScaler is a very powerful gateway appliance, and today it's used solely for IUAnyWare. It's our access point for IUAnyWare. But as Kyle has spoken to, there is so much more that we can do with it. And so we did have a special kind of powwow session, about 20 people from the university, and we all got in a room and at least talked about potential use cases to see, do we want to try to do this? Plus, they're up for a refresh in about a year. So I had to really think about, how do we want to move forward with the replacement of those? But yeah, I think definitely with all of the new requirements for security, we've got to truly start leveraging that. And our groups are then kind of forced to work closer together. So I will be looking for input from, sounds like I found some good resources here in the audience. All right. You'll get tired of seeing us. Sounds good. Yes, right next to Sav. We'll find you well. All right. Oh, I don't have anything else. Kyle, anybody else? One more in the back? Yes. Oh, that's a problem. I'll let you talk on that one. It's been a minute.
You can definitely do keyboard mappings. The Bluetooth keyboards cause me fits too because I want it to be in that small, you want as much of the keys on that keyboard as possible, but you lose some of them. And, mine, I forget what key it is now, but it literally was not on the keyboard. So you're like, I need this button right here to do, it's not there. So, I mean, you can definitely remap keys, and you have the ability to pull up a soft keyboard, not that you want to do it all the time, and get some of those additional keys that you don't have on that Bluetooth keyboard. Yeah. Totally agreed. So it would be more talking with these folks and trying to get a keyboard mapping in there for you to, change it from control whatever, or function whatever to something else that is actually on that Bluetooth keyboard. Yep. All right, everybody. We're going to give you some time back. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys.